Yes, ma'am. Now you can start your session.
Good evening, everyone. I'm Gurmeet Kaur, your resource person today for a very interesting topic, learning disabilities and how do we deal with it. Before I proceed, I hope I'm extremely audible to everyone.
Yes, ma'am. You are audible.
Thank you, teacher. So before I begin the session, I would just like to share something which you must have all gone through in your teaching career. I'm giving you a situation. I have over here right now 993 participants. It's a big number. And I want you to imagine that you are the principal of the school. And a teacher comes to you. And this is what the teacher has to tell you. She comes to you and she says, "Ma'am, this child doesn't do anything. I have tried everything with this child. When I tell him to complete the work, he doesn't complete. I explain it to him how it has to be done. I hand over somebody's notebook to him. Still, the work is not done. When I tell him to call the parents, next day he's absent." And the teacher goes on and on and on. Now, I want to know, if you're the principal and you're listening to this teacher, what would you recommend this teacher? You can put it up in the chat. What are your thoughts? What do you think you should be telling the teacher? Somebody has written, I'm not audible. Am I not audible?
Ma'am, now you are audible.
So initially, whatever I said, is it that, I was not audible?
Cause some network issue in your side, ma'am.
Okay. But now is it okay?
Now it's okay.
So I was just sharing a little story. I wanted you to imagine that you are the principal of a school and a teacher comes and tells you that this child is not doing anything. I assign some work and it is not completed. I help the child out in every possible way, but still the child is not interested in completing the work. I do not know what has to be done with this child. Please help me out. So what are the thoughts going in your mind? How would you like to help this teacher? Okay, I can see I can see a lot of responses. Yeah, if the student does not understand your voice, then teach him or her in his or her language that they understand. Pay extra attention to the child. Anshuman has written, pay extra attention to the child. Mr. Joydeep has written, if a student does not understand your voice, then teach him in their language. Same with Ms. Navita. At first, try to understand the problem, look into the matter, try to understand the child's situation. Very good. Ask for suggestions. Okay, Mr. Amrendra has written, teachers not having patience to deal with the child. So all the responses are absolutely wonderful. I would just like to add on a couple of my observations. When a child is not doing the work, so there could be two major reasons. Number one, maybe the emotional aspect, which you can talk about. The conditions in the house are not favorable. The child is not getting time, and the child is otherwise interested, but the condition in the house is not favorable for the child to go through it. The second is the child does not know how to do it. Now, we are not dealing in this session the first aspect. We are going to focus more on when the child doesn't know what to do, how to do, and the teacher is also at a loss, not knowing how to help the child. So that's what we're going to learn in this session, how to help such children, so that we have each and every child in a class who is able to do their work with perfection. What we will understand by the end of this session is what are the learning disabilities, why the child is not able to learn, what are the different kinds of learning disabilities wherein both the child and the teacher, both of them are feeling helpless, not knowing what to do. That we will understand today. And there would be an awareness among all of us to identify students with learning disabilities. And once we know that a child is suffering from whatever learning disability, what are we going to do? How are we going to help the child next is what we are going to do. So before I continue, there's a link I'm sharing in the chat box. I want you all to click on that link and participate in few questionnaires which is coming your way. I've just shared a link. Kindly just click on that link. So I can see 75 responses by now. Around 50% of you are familiar with these learning disabilities, 40% to some extent. Do you have students with learning disabilities? A big number, 73% saying yes, you do have students with learning disabilities. 18% saying that, they do not have, and around 10 to 11% saying that, they are not very sure whether they have children with learning disabilities or they do not. So whether you feel that every teacher should be familiar with learning disabilities, so approximately 90% of you definitely feel that you should be familiar with learning disabilities. I can see small percentage disagree to that. The parents of learning students basically with LDA must be informed and involved. So 98% says it's possible. As a teacher, can you handle students with learning disabilities? Yes, you can. 73% says you can handle, and around 25% says maybe, and a very small percentage is there which feels that, who feels it's going to be a little difficult for you. So I'm very happy to see this result. So it gives me immense satisfaction that, most of you know what are learning disabilities, and many of you feel that you can handle children with learning disabilities. So which makes my session much more easy to go by, since that's the crowd I'm going to handle today. So it gives me immense pleasure. So going forward, what are learning disabilities? First, let us all be very clear about it. Since a big number over here is aware of the learning disabilities, I'm sure you are all aware that these learning disabilities are due to genetic or neurobiological factors. There is some problem in the brain which does not let the child work in a way the child should be working. So that's how, learning disabilities are defined. To some of you who may be feeling that, if they've got the children, especially who are not able to move properly or not able to speak properly, and to a considerable extent, only those are the children which will be facing a problem in reading or writing. So I would just like to say that this is a mistake, a big mistake. A lot of children with learning disabilities are very, very normal children. When you look at them, you will not even realize that they have a learning disability. You really have to go a step forward. You will have to make an effort to understand whether the child has a learning disability or not. So the child may have problems to understand what is written, basic mathematics skills also, the child will struggle to understand. Further, when it comes to uh, things like which require higher level of skills, what are those skills? That you know how to plan your time, you know how to organize, when you have to keep your stuff in your wardrobe, so you know it exactly how it has to be placed. These are the higher level skills. And when we find children struggling on those parameters, they will also come under learning disabilities. It is important to realize that learning disabilities can affect the individual's life beyond academics. Once the academics is hampered, and learning disabilities does not restrict only to the academics, even whether it is the personal life of the child, with the family, with the friends, and when the child grows up, even in the workplace, this greatly affects. Now, why it is important for us to deal with these learning disabilities in the school? Because it is only in the school that the early signs can be seen. The symptoms of learning disabilities can be seen during the early stages when the child is learning to read, to write, to do simple mathematics sums. So that is when, as teachers, we can understand this child has a problem, right? So that is why it is very important that we as teachers know and help the child in various disabilities that the child has. And most of these children, mind you, are average and above average children. They are not below average children. They are not the ones whom we can tag it as like, they just cannot do it. We have, if we are able to guide them in the manner in which they can learn it, they do remarkable in their life. So there is a lot of gap between the potential of the child and the actual achievement of the child, which is often termed as, hidden abilities. Instead of talking it as learning disabilities, it's being referred as hidden abilities. So talking about the learning abilities in a positive manner. This I already told you that these kids look absolutely normal, and they seem to be very bright and intelligent, and some skills they may demonstrate also very nicely, but then at a similar time, they may not be able to display a lot of other skills which is required at that particular age. Now, inclusive education is mandated by NEP 2020. So it's very important for us to understand that now we can, like, it's all the children who come to us. We need to take care of them. If there are issues with the children, we cannot say that, we will not be able to teach such a child. The child is not normal, cannot read, cannot write. We cannot say that. NEP defines very clearly that inclusion is the word that we have to all understand, and we have to include each and every child that comes to our school, whether the child has learning disabilities, which means we should be prepared to tackle those children and help those children in overcoming those disabilities and moving forward. I just told you that as per NEP 2020, adopting inclusive practices is mandatory, and we need to be extremely aware about the learning disabilities that a child may have, and we should be knowing how to deal with it. Okay, I have a small video. I want you all to watch it before I take the session forward.
सफेद वो रंग काले बदन बोलता नहीं पर कहता क्या के सारे जो वेद थे मुझ तुमने कुछ ही समय हुआ था मुझे उस स्कूल में, तो मैंने पहली बार उसे नोटिस किया। क्लासरूम के बाहर पनिशमेंट में खड़ा था, मैं चीजों को देखता हुआ मैं सोच रहा था कि लेस कैसे बांधे, ये हाथ तो जी थे। फिर कई बार मैंने उसे वही कोई बीमारी नहीं थी, फिर भी स्कूल के टीचर्स ने कई सारे लेवल्स दे रखे थे, ना समझ, ना करा, ना लाया, ना समझ में नहीं आता।
अरे सर, इसको तो मुर्गा बनना भी नहीं आएगा।
तुम भी मुर्गा
अबे गोल उधर नहीं, इधर है। इसको टीम में किसने लिया यार?
दूसरे बेटा एबीसी भी होता है, कभी वो भी नहीं आता। ठीक से पढ़ना लिखना इवन बोलना तक मुश्किल था। बहुत सी साधारण सी चीजों में भी पीछे रह गया था, लेकिन इसका ये मतलब नहीं कि आप उसे आगे ही ना बढ़ना, उसके आत्मविश्वास को तोड़ दें, उसे इतना डराएं कि वो बेचारा अपने आप को जानने के बजाय अपने आप से भागे। घर, सोसाइटी और स्कूल से नकार दिए जाने के बाद वो अपने आप को उन्हीं लोगों की नजरों से देखने लगा और अपनी कमियों और अपने अकेलेपन को बढ़ावा चाहिए। लेकिन वो ये नहीं जानता कि उसकी आंखें और उसके हाव भाव अपने आप में कितना कुछ कह देते। दरअसल वो अपने आप से केवल एक कदम की दूरी पर था। लकड़ी दाल को फेंक लगाओ, दाल में इसको पकड़ो, तोड़ा, इसको बनाओ, और रविंद्रनाथ टैगोर जी की फिलोसफी है कि दीवारें आदमी के दिमाग को सीमित कर देती है, तो वो शायद इसी बच्चे के लिए पिंजरे में बंद रहकर तो चिड़िया की अपनी उड़ान भूल सकती है। बिल्कुल। तो वो क्या नहीं कर सकता, बजाय ये देखने के कि वो क्या कर सकता है। वैसे अब उसका सफेद रंग काफी पॉपुलर हो चुका है, कहता है पहले मैं अक्सर अकेला देखकर हो जाता था, और अब जब भी रोता हूँ सामने बैठा हर इंसान मेरे साथ होता है। उसे तो एक टीचर का और माइंड का सहारा, और उसके जैसे बाकी बच्चों का तो उन्हें कोई सफेद रंग मिलता है।
So that was a small video on how a child who was suffering with learning disability was shown a new direction. I saw some of you were writing audio was very low or audio was not clear, but it had the captions in English, so I did not stop it because the message had to be sent across. You need to understand that a child who is there with us and not doing well in studies may not be because of his fault. There may be genuine reasons why he's not or she is not doing it. So we need to help such children. We need to show them a way. They're all going to be with us. So we need to show them a way, show them a light. And you can see right now, I've got a long list of great personalities. And these are all such personalities who were suffering from some or the other learning disability. It was General George Patton, Winston Churchill, Walt Disney, Albert Einstein, Alexander Graham Bell, George Washington. Big names. I want you to Google and find out what was the learning disability that they were facing, and still they have made a remarkable life. So let us all help our children in making their lives also wonderful. And I'm sure now when I'm reading out these names, can you name some Indian personalities who are suffering from learning disabilities but are extremely successful? Can you name any such? Oh, very good. I got a name, Abhishek Bachchan. Or you can also name movies made on learning disabilities. Yeah, Abhishek Bachchan is coming. Hrithik Roshan, very good. Some Indian names I was talking about. So we have Hrithik Roshan. Yeah, Tare Zameen Pe. Extremely good. Tare Zameen Pe, definitely a movie made of a child who was suffering from learning disability. Black, yeah, very good. Black also another movie. An extreme case of a learning disability, and how Amitabh Bachchan in that movie helped Rani Mukherjee learn, and she even gave her graduation. So these are extreme cases. Here you can see Hrithik Roshan, who had difficulty in speaking, or Amitabh Bachchan, who suffered from dyslexia. Two such personalities who made very good in their life. So what we can do and how we can help our children. So this is a tentative checklist that you can keep in mind when you are identifying children with disabilities. Number one, the child will have difficulty in making sound symbol association. When you say something, and when the child says, and the symbols, when the actions the child will be doing, there will be no coordination. You'll tell the child to raise the hand, the child will not raise. So these are the things which the child will fail to do. In such a case, we should be able to identify that this is a difficulty of a child. The child has a short attention span. Now that I would say that, with this era where technology has taken over us, now it is very difficult to keep the child engaged in the studies with the mobile in one hand, with the smartphone, with your smart TVs, and the way technology is hovering over us, the attention span has definitely come down. But if there is a reason beyond it, let us try to find out. The child reverses letters or symbols, often in comparison with peers while reading. So, for example, if it is written saw, the child may read it as was. So the child is reading in the reverse order, sorry. So such a child you need to identify. Has issues in copying from other sources. You will know when you are writing on the board, this especially in lower classes in the primary section, when something is written on the board and we want the children to copy the stuff in the notebook, and we find there are some children who copy it wrong, who miss words in between, who do not do exactly what we want them to do. So don't just go and scold the child. Can't you see how I've written? You please find out, is it happening in all classes, in all subjects? Is the child not able to copy from the board? That means the child has a problem. Maybe the child has a vision problem. Maybe the child is not able to read properly. Maybe the child is skipping words in between. So these are problems which we need to identify. Instead of blaming the child that can't you see properly and write, don't end up shouting at children. We need to find out why the child fails to do so. So the child faces difficulty in organizing things. So suppose, we come to the primary section wherein there are a lot of activities wherein we tell, okay, now there are certain shapes, a square shape, a rectangle shape. So you need to identify all the items which have got a rectangle shape, all the items with square shapes. You need to separate it. And most of the children will do it very easily, but there may be some who struggle with it, who do not know that, a triangle, a square, a rectangle, there are different shapes. And I'm not talking about literally cutting cardboards and making it. It can be like, we've got various kinds of biscuits or chips which have now available in the market, and which if we just display it, and if the child is not able to differentiate a circle with a square or a rectangle in all these biscuits, this is a small activity which is done to find out the various kinds of shapes. So we know that there is a problem. So leaves letters or words while reading. So if you tell such children to read, so you will find the child is skipping words in between. So again, so if such a case is there, we need to understand that problem. Is it persistent? Is it happening in all classes? Is the child doing every time? And then you need to mark that there is an issue with this child. The child faces difficulty in showing specific sequence of instructions. If you tell the child, okay, these are the 5 steps in which you need to solve this sum, and the child doesn't understand. So you need to identify such children. The child finds difficulty in selecting details to answer from story, passage, or chapter. This is specific to English or Hindi, wherein the story is given or the passage is given, and you ask questions at the end. So there are children who are not able to find out the correct answer from the passage or the story. Don't blame the child. Maybe the child doesn't know how to pick up an answer from the passage. Maybe he's struggling with that. He doesn't know it. So we need to help such children out in the manner in which the child is able to understand how to pick up the right answer from the passage given. So these are the learning disabilities, mind you. It is not that the child is enjoying not finding out answers. Child is not able to do it. So we need to help the child. So we'll come to now this is the checklist. Now with this checklist, we'll now identify students and put them in various categories in which they fall. Starting with, first is dyscalculia. Now what is dyscalculia? Dyscalculia is wherein the child fails to understand numbers and mathematical facts. The child cannot understand the abstract. For example, if you say, there are 5 birds sitting on a tree, 2 flew away, how many are left? So these are children who think that those 2 who have flown away, they are still there around in the atmosphere somewhere. So they don't understand that, we are talking specific about the tree and the number of trees which are, number of birds which are left on the tree. So this is a problem with the children who are not able to do mathematics questions because they don't understand the abstract. So the story has to be narrated physically, making a tree, making some, putting some, birds over there, and then showing, okay, now only just see these birds have flown away. They're out somewhere. You can't see these birds. How many are left on the tree? So that's how it has to be reached to the children in a manner in which the child understands. So it is dyscalculia is associated with weaknesses in fundamental number, whether the numbers, how the numbers you need to represent and how the numbers you need to understand. So this is what is dyscalculia, and mathematics skills are extremely necessary, and especially higher level maths problem, the quantitative reasoning will be extremely impaired if we don't take care in the primary classes how to deal with such children. No, so how can you help? Right? First approach is the multi-sensory approach, wherein you adopt various ways to reach the child. The child is not understanding this concept. So what are we going to do so that the child remembers and is able to absorb? Because it's not just one question of tree and the birds. So there are related how many ever questions that comes. So how does that part reach to the child so that the child is able to retain that this is the logic behind it, and so the child will remember it next time you will ask the child. So multi-sensory objects means physical, you need to do it. Maybe, make a little mime with it and then teach the child. There are lot of ways in which you need to reach the child to make the child understand how the child will be doing it. And the most easy way is to physically involve the child and design such lesson plans which suits everybody. Make a game. Mathematics, we've got a lot of games. So have a game in the class wherein the game is played and the child is learning the concept. And finally, how you're going to use mathematics to real life. Simply saying that, 5 minus 3 is 2. The child may not understand because it is abstract. Number 5 is abstract. The number 3 is abstract. The child doesn't know. So to make the child understand what is 5, and what is 3, I have taken a very simple example, but if there are mathematics teachers out here, you would know that as you progress, there's a lot more in mathematics, and the children find it extremely difficult to understand those concepts. We can use visual aids like drawing pictures. And please remember, even the child starts doing a very small step, appreciate the child. Appreciate the effort of the child. Maybe the answer is wrong, but you can see that the child is making the effort in the right direction. So don't forget to appreciate. That goes a long way in motivating the child to take an extra step forward. Next, we come to dysgraphia. Now, dysgraphia is the handwriting of the child. Now, a child who suffers from dysgraphia will have a handwriting which is not very legible. It is because the fine motor skills of the child has not developed properly. Hence, the handwriting is not coming out properly. The child cannot write in one line. That is one. Secondly, the child is unable to follow the size of the letters. That you tell the child to write a sentence and you find, as you can see the picture also, which I've just put over here, I is so small and am is big, then glad is going slightly down. So this is how a child will write who suffers with dysgraphia. It involves impaired ability to produce legible and automatic letter writing and numerical writing. Because the child is suffering with fine motor skills, the ability to hold the pen or pencil and to write, that's the skill that a child should have. That's the fine motor skill. So if the child's hands are not proper and the child's fine motor skills have not developed, so the child will struggle to write neatly. So there's no point getting angry on such children. You need to be patient, understand the child. If that child is not able to write, we need to help such children. Is rooted in difficulty with storing and automatically retrieving letters and numerals, because if you tell the child to write a sentence, will not remember, for example, how R has to be written. So that's a problem. So what is the checklist for dysgraphia? Number 1, the child has illegible handwriting. So you will find both lower case and upper cases while the child is writing. You will find suddenly the child is written in between a capital letter, then all the other words are in small, and suddenly some letters are going capital. So it goes like that. So there is no sequence being followed. The words are also omitted in between. And the positioning of the what I was talking about, the size of the letters and the words are not consistent. And that even if that photograph was on a plain paper, but even if a ruled paper is given, the child doesn't know that the child has to write on the line. Some letters will be on the line, some alphabets going above the line. So there is no coordination. A child may have a wrist which is discordant, and the paper position and the body position while writing, there is a scientific way to write. So if the child is not following that, so the child will not be able to write legible handwriting. So frequently such children needs verbal instruction that, okay, your A is very big, so please write down small. The next alphabet you need to write the standing line of H has to be really big. So you need to give continuous verbal instructions to such children. Next we come to dyslexia. Dyslexia is delayed early language development. Children start speaking at an early age, but there are few children who are not able to speak. So there's a delay in their language development because they are not able to understand the words. The child will first understand, only then will be able to speak. If the child fails to understand the words and the sounds that are coming, the child is not able to deliver it. That is the problem with dyslexic children. They're very slow in learning new words, new vocabulary, and again, these children find it difficult to copy from the board. There'll be difficulty with learning, reading, writing, speaking. So a dyslexic child will not be able to read properly, will not be able to write properly, and will make a lot of spelling errors. Excuse me. And the parts of the words or the parts of the whole sentences will be missing in between. And sometimes some words can come out which may sound very funny, but then that's how these children write. Recalling sequences of things or more than one command at a time can be difficult. To such children, you can't tell them to do many things at a time. They want instructions very, very slowly. After you tell them one thing to do, you need to wait till they complete that work. Only then you give them the next instruction. If you give all 5 instructions together, then they won't be able to coordinate and understand that what completely was supposed to be done. So how can you help such children? So once again, multi-sensory learning, right? So having physical activities to practice spelling. So you can make some, we've got a lot of teaching aids now, which can be used to, write words and sentences. Now, tactile material is once again, which can be, physically touched by the children. They can hold it in their hands. You have got this crossword puzzle. So you've got those small cubes with alphabets written on top, letters written on top. So we can use that to help the child learn words, learn spellings. Now with technology coming up, now a lot of tools are there, like a spell checker, a line reader. Now these are things which are, if you are typing, and so automatically spell check is there, that is already there in the Word or PowerPoint if you are making it. So if you type in a wrong word, automatically it gets highlighted. That is one. Another one is when you write down and then you can completely check all the spellings. It will highlight the spellings which are wrong. To such children, we have to give more time so that they are able to cope up with the schoolwork. And of course, involve them in a lot of educational games. Working together with parents is definitely important, because it may happen that the parents are totally unaware of this. We should take the onus on ourselves, that we, being the educated fraternity and much more aware of these learning disabilities, are able to guide the parent properly, so that the parents can also help such children in the house. Don't tell them straight away that there is a problem with the child, and you need to visit. So immediately some parents will associate this with mental case, that my child is there's nothing wrong with my child is absolutely fine. That's going to be the reaction if you just straight tell the parent that there is a problem. You need to say there is a very slight problem. Child is not able to understand how to write. So this is the activity, if you do in the house, child will be able to write properly. If this approach you maintain, so you will find that parents will cooperate with you, and you will be able to help the child in a better way. Next, we've got dyspraxia. This is a disorder which causes problems with movement, coordination, language, speech. So you can see there are four things together. So such children cannot walk properly. They struggle to put their feet properly on the ground, and they can't, when they're walking also, they'll be very shaky. So there's lack of coordination. They can't, do normal things also. They really struggle. So they are the ones with suffering with dyspraxia. Dyspraxia is very easily identified, because since there is, it is associated with movement, so you can easily identify such children. Then, because it will be also connected with the language and speech, they will not be able to speak clearly. Then the words will not come out very clear. You will have to struggle to understand what they're actually saying. So again, it is not their fault. We have to help such children. So how can you help such children? So we have to use written and visual aids as much as possible for them. We can't simply, dictate and expect that they're going to understand and they're going to do it immediately. They will not be able to do it. They are really struggling. And so we need to be there with our teaching aids, with our written material, and also because they are the ones who are struggling with their movement, so we have to ensure that they have a comfortable seat in the class, and they not like sitting somewhere in between where the children are moving around, and the child is getting disturbed. So a place for the child where the child can easily sit and can easily walk out of the room also with minimum problem. And what can be the alternatives to writing? Because such children cannot write for long. They cannot, the fine motor skills have not developed, and they struggle with it. So they will not be able to write as they move to higher classes. So they cannot write long. So you need to find out what are the alternatives, if we can help the child in giving some matter which is which even if they don't write is okay, if we can take more of oral tests from them. So whatever you're doing, it has to be with the permission and with the guidelines of the school. But the idea is basically to help such children to get the education that every child deserves. So to these children, you need to be again very slow in dealing with them, in imparting your instructions to them. You have to also keep an eye that the other children are not bullying these special children, and not making fun of them if they're not able to do anything. So just keep an eye that things are fine with these kids. So how can you help your child with dyspraxia? Sorry. Next is oral written language disorder and specific reading comprehension deficit. This is another problem which is related to the language, be it oral or be it written language. And when it comes to reading, so speaking and reading is a problem in this case. So such children, they struggle with understanding or expressing language, often in both oral and written forms. So you will find, when you, for example, you give an essay, and you will find some children are not able to write down. they may be having a lot of thoughts in their mind that this is how I want to write, but then they cannot comprehend. They cannot put the right words that should be put up in that essay. So that is why they struggle. They struggle with that. So these individuals, they often exhibit language impairment related to deficits in semantic processing and syntactic processing. Now, what is semantic and what is syntactic? I'll give a small example. For semantic processing is where you have, like in Hindi, you have got Prayavachi Shabd and English synonyms. So, for example, you say the destination, and you destination means the last stop. The child will fail to understand that destination and last stop means the same thing. So that's what is the meaning of semantic, wherein the child fails to understand and comprehend the meaning of the words which are similar. And syntactic is the sequence. For example, you say a word, Ram went to the market. So the child will probably say something like this: market went Ram. The child is not able to use the correct sentence and is kind of using the words in a haphazard manner, not in a proper sequence. So that's what is the meaning of syntactic. So these are the two problems that these children will be facing. So checklist for autism spectrum disorder, again, the child faces difficulty in making proper eye contact. When you talk to these children, they will not look at you. They'll look down, they will look towards your right or left, but they will not look straight at you. The child often repeats words. Suppose you ask the child, what is your name? And the child will also repeat, what is your name? Right? The child is unable to play with friends or classmates and will not be able to wait for turns or follow any rules. So these children will have struggle making friends. And then if they're going to play any game, so they are the ones who will not follow the rules. They cannot follow rules. If you make a rule that you're going to play cricket and you will be batting or you will be bowling, and these are the rules in which you will be doing this. So these children fail to understand the various rules of the game. The child is unable to answer for the name call. They've got excellent rote memory for numbers, dates, phone numbers, names, etc. They will have excellent rote memory, please mind you. But they will struggle in various other parameters. But then this is one good thing that they will have. They exhibit repetitive motor mannerism like rocking, spinning, hand flapping. So that goes on with them. So how do we work with them? Again, multi-sensory instructions, repetitive and review of skills. We give the instructions again and again, and then we will also check out whether they are following it up in the same manner or not. And the intensity of intervention will be more while you're handling with these children, because they may be, we may have to call them for extra help, maybe on a Saturday or any other day. And teacher has to really give instructions, splitting the instructions also further so that the child is able to do the work properly. How would you work with them? Drilling sight words. What are sight words? The sight words are which are words which you can see n number of times. Are, the, they. So these are words which in any sentence, or if you read a paragraph, you will find the words coming again and again and again and again. So these are the sight words. So we can drill them such sight words. And then teaching comprehension strategies to help kids derive meaning from what they are reading. So we ask them once they read, okay, now tell us, what have you understood? So how do we help such children? Number one, as we are having this session now with almost 1,000 people, understanding what is a learning disability. This is an awareness program, so that we understand the problem. There is awareness. then we can further go and communicate with others, with our parents, that this is a problem and this is the solution. Don't tell only the problem, also tell the solution for that problem. So we, in the process, become competent professionals to work in an inclusive environment. And plus, let us never forget these special educators which are there in our school to take their help and then take these kids forward. So, what will be our steps in moving forward? First step is that we as teachers screen the children. Second is the school counselor or the special educator will observe the behavior of these children. And third, in extreme cases, if the child has to be referred for any, excuse me, any specialized test or taking extra help from outside, only then the child should be referred out to a doctor so that the correct treatment is done. So what is the teacher's role over here? That we understand the emotions exhibited by the parents of children who are suffering with these disabilities, that they are already undergoing a lot of difficulties. So let us be more compassionate towards the parents and let us acknowledge the parents' effort and also understand that they are undergoing a lot of stress. They have an added stress. So let us acknowledge that and let us help the parents also, and let us welcome them by valuing their participation also. Until we are with the parents, we will not be able to help the child. So what would be the teaching methodology? Number one, we need to ensure that there is a lesson plan, which is a very, very unified lesson plan, which is catering to all our learners. That is what we need to first understand, that when we make a lesson plan, we take care of all our learners. So when we go to the class, please understand the 7 wonders of learning. And what are they? That the children understand the concepts when they can feel, when they can touch, see, hear, taste, and definitely love. If you show them that you love them, nevertheless, whether they do the work or they don't do it, and you are there to help them out, it really works wonders for them. Collaborative teaching is a strategy to teach all students the same content and meet the same standards, right? And we can use sports, we can use visual art, puppets, storytelling, theater, integrating multiple intelligence in the teaching learning process. Buddy system is another system where the child's friend is going to help the child. So if the child's friend is helping, so the child learns faster. So that's how you help these children. And when you make an individual lesson plan, so the part 1 can contain student's profile, which is the basic information about the child, the assessment marks which are there, the areas of strength and the areas of improvement for the child, and what is the general observation of the student. The part B can contain what has to be done to accommodate this child in the school, what should be the preferred learning style and the teaching style which the child will be able to learn. So what is the child's learning style? That should be mentioned over here, along with the annual goals, midterm goals, and the long-term goals. And part C talks about the progress of the child, not only in curricular but co-curricular activities as well, including suggestions from parents and recommendations. So the entire summary, if I tell you what we learned today in this session, number one, the meaning of learning disabilities the various kinds of learning disabilities, awareness about inclusion and its significance, and awareness about the ways to identify the students with learning disability. And now we have information regarding how to work with the students with learning disability. Excuse me. Let us all remember, our job is to teach the kids we have, not the ones we used to have, not the ones we would like to have, the ones we have right now, all of them. So inclusion is yours, mine, and ours. So with that, I come to the last part of the slide. I would like to thank each and every participant. I have been seeing a lot of participants have been posting comments. Thank you, each one of you, for motivating me with your comments, because I've been seeing remarkable comments coming even during the session. So I really would like to thank each one of you. And I'm sure when you go back to the school, when the students start coming to the school, you all will be ready to tackle them and involve each and every one in the learning process. Thank you so very much.
Thank you, ma'am. Now I am ending this session.
Thank you.